just a quick review of the art of guillotine, then we're going to spend a lot of time on how to, on more abstract points for getting out of side control today, because I want that to get really good, and because it's something I want to work on as well. So, but just first, our general setup, we're going to work with the half guard arm in guillotine today. So, I take my chin strap, I want his head under my armpit. I've seen some people try to do it like this, with the head on the chest. I'm not going to get a choke here. He's going to, if I try to crank this now, he can just pop his head out. Yeah, I don't have a good lock on his head if I do that. So you want it in here. Now if he tries to pull his head out, my armpit's in the way. Okay? And from the chin strap, move over to the side of the neck. Step up. Foot between the legs, and make sure you fall on your side. And from here, just crank it. Okay? Just a quick review. Actually, I think we did this. Yeah, so you've done this as well. So just a quick refresher. Make sure we've all got the mechanics in right, because I just love watching everyone get choked. And then we're going to go to a nice, long, intensive side control study. Okay? So like I said, we're going to spend a lot of time with the side control and a lot of focus on making sure we can get out of the side control in its diverse forms. There's 1,000 different variations of side control. There's side control, reverse side control, kesagatami, just like the different versions of kesagatami, which are just variations of a side control. But whenever we're talking about side control, we're basically talking about a position where your back's on the ground and your shoulders are pinned, and I am not directly on top of you. So my legs are not, I'm not seated on top of you or on your back. So anything like that is a form of side control. So I want to just kind of point out a few things in terms of what the guy on top wants when he's got a side control, which is then going to inform what you need to do on the bottom when you want to get out of the side control, okay? Because the whole point of my side is to restrict motion. I want him moving as little as he possibly can. So, there are basically 4 control points I want to have when I'm trying to make sure, lower your knees just to make sure it's in the camera. So I have basically 4 control points I want to make sure I have some restriction of his movement on. So how much will be depending on how he tries to escape, but I want all 4 to have some form of control. Okay? So the first one is this arm. Okay? So a lot of times you'll see people, they'll have like something like this. Yeah, and he can immediately bring his elbow in and start framing. That's going to start destroying my side control. He can start generating movement. He can jostle me around then. Now I have to work to do something to get my side control. So the first thing we want to do is make sure this arm is nice and restricted. Okay? Let's try and move your arm in now. Okay? So just do it without moving your hips. Just try to, yeah. Again, trying to keep, I'm trying to not do all the points. So yeah, but if I just do this, yeah, exactly. Now he's got a hard time just using his arm to get in with the elbow. So now he would have to use something else like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He would have to push in and frame so that he can get the elbow in. So my second point is this cross face. So now I've got his head and this arm, okay? So now if he tries to just move without using this arm, yeah, now it's a lot harder, right? Okay, so now if he were to try, if I have these 2 points, now what he would do, if he wants to get out, yeah, exactly, he starts moving his hips, or he would frame here. He would, yeah, exactly, he would push me back and then start removing the frames. Inching over with every single, eventually we're going to be on the other side of the gym and no one can see us in the camera. Okay, actually, turn a bit too. Okay, so I've got the arm, I've got the head, and now I want to control this arm, make sure he can't frame into me. I always do that with basically, I make sure I have a nice solid connection of my head on this shoulder. So that now if he tries to frame in, yeah. Yeah, so this is going to make it hard for him to frame in now. So now if I have all three of these points blocked, he has one more option to generate motion. Yeah, exactly, his hips. He can shrimp out, he can just like, exactly. So the hips are his last option. That's what he can use to kind of shrimp out or like just do the other three for me and keep him free. Yeah, good work, yes. So, okay, he's got my head, he's got my arm. I can start coming out, I can bridge over. Yeah. I can generate a lot of motions now with my hips. So that's the last thing the guy on top is going to want to kill. Okay? So I do that personally with a combination of this hand and this knee. Okay? So I bring my hand and I want to crunch in with the elbow. Okay? I'm using that to remove motion in this direction. So if he tries to shrimp in that way, my elbow's blocking him now. And the other way, let's turn around so it can be seen. And the other way is I bring my knee here on his hip. And I kind of sandwich the hips between my elbow and my knee so that I've more or less eliminated both directions of motion. I've got my crossface, I've got the arm track, I've got my hand on the shoulder, so that now I'm trying to move out. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but that doesn't really help you, does it? Yeah. Okay, so that's what your guy on top is going to want to be doing. That's just an example from a standard side control. If I'm in a reverse side control, people have seen me do this a lot. I'll grab the legs, but this is so that I can restrict his hips. Okay, and I've got my arm up here. This is keeping him from getting a nice good frame with that hand. Yeah, exactly. And I don't have to have that much control of the head now, but I'm replacing that with a nice heavy control on his hips now. Or you'll see me do something like this. Okay, where I'm on. Let's turn to the side so you can see. So it's more of a north-south variation, but I consider this in the side control family. Okay, so I've got his head with my body and this arm with this arm with this leg, and I'm blocking the hips with this hand and with this hand. So that again, if he's trying to move out, yeah. Okay, so those are always my points of control that I'm trying either actively or passively to control. I mean, a good example, back to the reverse side control. It looks like I don't have his head, but for example, if I pull his legs up like this, yeah, now his head's controlled. It's passively because I'm basically rolling him up on his head, but it's the same situation. Okay? So, the first sort of drill I want us to do, okay? I don't want to do a specific technique. What I want to do instead is you take the side control and you just let your opponent try to wiggle. So if Chris takes the side control with me, okay, the guy on the bottom, all I'm trying to do is just to see if I can move. Yeah, you can see I'm working on that arm. I got the arm in, okay? And that tells Chris, oh, I need to do something to control the arm better. Okay? So let's say he does that, but yeah, so look at how we can move my hips now. Yeah, now Chris knows, oh, I need to isolate the hips more. Okay? Again. Okay, so Chris is here, so, and I get my arm in. Oh, Chris needs to worry about how to control my arm more, okay? So that's all I want to do. Keep it light. We're not trying to do sparring right now. Just see if you can easily move around. That means he doesn't have enough control, okay? So, and just kind of play around with that, okay? So again, don't worry so much about a specific technique or a specific side control. If you switch to a completely different form of side control, that's fine. Again, if you go into some sort of variation like this, that's perfectly fine, as long as you've got control over his points and he can't easily frame in. Okay? All of that is fine. I just want you to worry about getting that nice good control. Okay? And if you're on the bottom, look for ways you can move without having to be very explosive. Okay? Because when you're in a side control and you need to escape, you want to conserve energy. Most people don't have the energy for more than 3 or 4 really explosive motions. So if your side control escape is and he's able to hold that for 3 or 4 of those, you're going to get tired. Okay? So I think everyone's side control is starting to get uncomfortable, and I think everyone's holding the side control a lot. So now to the actual topic, because like I was saying to you guys, it doesn't help to learn how to escape a bad side control. We want to learn how to get out of a good side control and get out of the worst case scenario. So, escapes are always trying to do what your opponent doesn't want you to do. So, if I let Chris get his nice, stable, controlled side control, okay? So, he's wanting to have control over all 4 of these points. So my goal is to disrupt his control in any way I can. So I'm intentionally not going to say, grab the arm, shrink out, or anything like that. Instead, try to think more, the points are head, this arm, this shoulder, and my hips, okay? And instead, let him get a nice control and just kind of experiment a bit. How I can get one of those points, it doesn't have to be broken. You don't have to completely destroy the control point. You just have to weaken it. If you can weaken the point, you get a little bit more motion, which means you probably have more motion in one of the other points, which means you can move another one, and you just slowly start eking away at all of his control points until one of your frames starts to get in. So, like, for example, what I just did, okay? He's got the hips are nice and controlled. I can't really sweep out. I can't really jerk out. But other thing, yeah, exactly that. I got this just a little bit of head control back. So he's not pushing into my head as much anymore. I was able to, with this hand, just kind of pull just pull the cross face a little bit and get my chin in. It's not comfortable, but this gives me more control, and then I was able to get the arm in. When I got the arm in, now his head control is gone, because that moves his head a bit, and that lets me get this arm in. And now I can start reclaiming my guard. Or, another way, okay? Let's say he's young and he's got 900 pounds of pressure on my jaw, and I can't move this. So all I did was the head was the easiest part to move, so I just kind of, yeah, exactly. Move the head, and that made the hips weaker, and that let me get this frame in. Okay? And again, I'm not trying to, it's not pull the head away, frame your arm in. It's generate some kind of motion. Break that control in even the slightest way possible. And that's going to weaken one of the other points, which will help you weaken another point, and eventually you'll get a frame in. Okay? So, again, go like that. Don't think, Chris did this, think, okay, where can I move something? Just look for anything you can move and see how that helps you move something else. And keep going until you're able to get a good frame in and get out. Okay? So, don't use a lot of power. We're not going to be sparring. I just want you to experiment a bit, okay? So that at the same time, if you're doing the side control, don't be a ragdoll. You don't have to, okay? Give a little bit of constructive feedback, but don't overpower your opponent. And again, play around a little bit. This is more experimenting, seeing where you can develop motion, okay? So, give it a try.